Good morning or afternoon or evening or whatever to everyone who is tuned in today. Thank you for being here. I'm Carl, and we're just going to jump right into it. As my friend Yvette Steele always says from CompTIA, we don't want to punish the prompt. So I'm sure we'll have lots of people joining us in the next few minutes as they finish up their last Zoom call. But we're just going to jump right into it. So the two panelists today are myself and Kara. And so occasionally she might need to jump in and say, let me just say one thing about that. Let me correct Carl. But you all need to know that Kara is 98.7% responsible for everything on the new site. And so she did take a little advice from me, but for the most part, she's been working for over a year on this. So shout out to her as always for doing an amazing job. And all right. So, and by the way, so here's our emails, and you're going to get the slides if you want them. But the big email that makes life go well is concierge at Small Biz Thoughts, because that goes to my whole team, and whoever can fix your problem the fastest will. For this site right now, that's probably going to be Kara, but it might be Nye, or it might be me or someone else. But we all get that email. So be sure to use that if you want to make sure you get a quick response. If you just email me, you may have to wait a week for somebody to remind me to check my email. So a couple of notes. If you have questions as we go along, put them in the Q&A section. I make a habit to ignore chat while I'm presenting, so Kara will try to monitor that, but actual questions that would be useful to anybody here, please put them in the Q&A section. And this is being recorded, so we will post it up as well. So here's where we've been. In 2013, I posted a class on standard operating procedures. And at the time, I knew we would be doing additional classes. And so 5 weeks later, I did another one. And 5 weeks after that, I did another one. And then I engaged other coaches and professionals to help. Many of you know Rayanne Buccianico. She is the the ultimate authority on QuickBooks and finances and being a managed service provider. And so she does a series of courses for us on straightening out your finances, using QuickBooks to automate your services, and how to grow your business so that you can sell it, right? She's got a lot of really great stuff. Lori Hartkey has taught classes, and she's actually teaching one right now as we speak, on how to be super successful and stay a small MSP. So we have classes for people who have 50 employees, and we have classes for people who want to have no employees. We've got a large variety of them. My brother Manuel teaches classes on business strategy, and co-teaches a class on the most important checklists for your MSP. James Kernan teaches classes on sales. So we have just a great group of people who provide amazing education. Our standard format is 5 weeks or 5 units, 5 hours of education with massive amounts of handouts and feedback and so forth. So what we try to do is give you homework, which is obviously not required, but the homework is intended to improve your business. So we might ask you to go off and create a business plan, or to list out all of the things that you do within your company and so forth. So it's a great mix of education and actually hands-on improving your own business. So now we are introducing IT Service Provider University. So Great Little Seminar was the name of the old company, and this is far more than a paint job, because we are dramatically changing what we do, and we're going to focus on certification. So part of what we're doing here is we're going to add certifications that are intended to help you improve your position within your own company, to improve the position of your company in your community, and to help you improve your career. That's honestly what we are interested in. So what's new on the back end is that Kara has completely revised the system. If you were a student before, don't worry, you can still log in and all of your stuff should work. But we've revised the way it is presented and we think improved it. The old site was basically designed by somebody who was kind of a hack, which is me. So the new site is much more focused on user interface and ease of access and so forth. We've also integrated the certification program into the site. And we've made some improvements along the way. One of the things we're doing across all of our brands is to put in closed captioning and make sure that people can view it on any device and it will look good and so forth. So that's the piece where Kara has just done an amazing job. Both the part that you can see and the part that you don't see. So the newest thing is that we've added quizzes. So we've actually been for 6 months or so going back and putting quizzes onto all of the old classes. And then these quizzes will be updated from time to time as we present each class live again. But right now we have about 20 classes and they all have quizzes. And so we're going to then create exams, certification exams based on those quizzes. I taught college for 10 years, and I have to say I'm a huge believer that there should not be any trick questions. The way that I teach is I start by saying, here's what you should learn. Here's a list of the things I want you to learn. And then we teach towards the syllabus. And then the exam measures how well you learned the things that we said we were going to teach you at the beginning. So that's the way all of this is designed. Like it's not intended to be trick questions, or for those of you who have Microsoft certifications, there are certain things where you have to answer things the Microsoft way, not necessarily the way it is in the real world. And for those of you who took the TCP/IP exam, the networking for Microsoft is different than the networking for Cisco. And so you have to do it the Microsoft way. We don't believe in that. We do focus on a specific way of delivering managed services. And so sometimes the questions will say, Carl believes this, true or false, that sort of thing. But for the most part, it's really intended to be pretty general, solid information about how to run your business most effectively. One of the things we've added is a foundations course. And this is it's actually something that came out of one of my fellow coaches and I, Chip Reeves from Bigger Brains, and I were talking about, we need some kind of training that says, what is managed services? Like what is it and what is it not? And why would you choose this business model instead of another business model? And when is it appropriate to choose a different business model? So we try to cover all of that. And also the foundations course gives you a head start on understanding how you're going to create a certification path for yourself. And it has handouts designed to help you go down the path of becoming certified. And what you're going to find is, for most of you, this is not going to be a very expensive adventure, right? So that class is required in order to get any certification. So even a cert that only takes one exam, it's one exam plus you got to finish the foundations class. And that's a 75-minute adventure. So it's not very difficult. There's no homework. It's just a matter of taking it so it's a level set before you take any other courses. So a quick tour, and Carol will be happy to give you more of a tour if you want it. She's creating videos on how you do this, how you do that, how you make your way through it. And we just this morning finished posting up the video on how to register for classes. So, but basically, I want you to see what you will be seeing when you sign up for a class. So we have two modules. One is public facing, and it's basically, what is this class about? What can you expect to learn? The sections that you see on the website, the unit summary and transcript and extra resources, these are things that will help you get a sense of what you can expect in the class and what you can learn, and why the class has value. Module 2 is the class itself. So once you register for the actual class, then the module tool will appear and you'll have access to each of the sections of the class. So there are two modules, a public one and then the registered one, and then the class itself has 5 units. We used to call these weeks because that's how they were delivered. But now in 2022, over half of our classes will have to be on demand each year, because with 5-week classes, we can only do 10 classes a year, 10 courses a year. So when you finish a class, you mark it as completed for that unit, and then you can move to the next unit. At the bottom of each unit, you will see the quizzes. So what happens is, let me go back a minute. So you see that there's an area for the handouts and the introductory video on unit 1 or module 1. When you go to the class itself, you'll have the live video, and the Zoom participation will be at the top. Handouts will be on the right. And then as you go through each unit, it has a similar look and feel. The quizzes are at the bottom. So many teachers actually redo their course every time they teach. And so, for example, Rayanne always likes to run balance sheets and P&L examples that are fresh. And she's always, because she's an enrolled agent, she's always up to spec on what the tax laws are and so forth. So she actually redoes her course each time. And, the core content is the same, but the specific examples are always very much up to date. So anyway, you see, this is the way that the dashboard will look for each class. And then we have different pathways. So what we've done is sort of looked at the 20-some courses we have and laid out. Well, if you were going to be in management, if you're going to say, well, I want to step up from being a tech to owning my own business, or I do own my own business, I want to make sure I'm on top of things, then the management or owner pathway is what you need. There's also a lot of stuff in here that's great for HR and hiring practices and so forth. The technician track is obviously filled with all kinds of good stuff. And part of it gets to the core belief that technicians need to understand not just the technology, but the business side of it. Technicians need to understand why in a managed service model, we put our time into the system, how we track time, how different clients might have different contracts and so forth. So technicians have a lot of things to learn about the business side of making sure that the managed service business is profitable. And at the end of the day, I'm going to teach a class on customer service as the next class. And at the end of the day, customers don't call it customer service. They just call it service. So, technicians need to know the context of what they're doing, and they can't just say, well, I don't want to talk to people. I want to sit in my cubicle and stare at the wall and just work on problems. You can't do that, at least not if you want to be a successful business. The sales and marketing is fairly obvious. We have a number of courses, including deep dive into things like how to tune up your LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube channels, and how to make sure that you're using Twitter and Instagram appropriately and so forth. So there's that. There's a lot of information on how to get leads, how to sell people. James is doing a new course this year, so that's great. I'm doing a new course this year. We had, I think, 4 new courses last year. So, it's not like there's a lack of things to learn. There's always stuff that we can learn. The service manager pathway is for service managers or service coordinators. Anybody who is going to be sort of doing a little bit of the management side of things will benefit from that pathway. And if you have, let's say you got, 8 technicians, and you want one of them to always be side checking the service manager and sort of being there and being trained up so that when the service manager goes on vacation, they can step up and be the service coordinator or temporary service manager, they should take that pathway. Obviously, if you are a technician who wants to enter management, the service manager pathway is also useful. And then finally, the front office, which is admin, bookkeeping, being the office manager. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I've always said the first person you should hire is an administrative assistant, because they can do a bunch of work. A lot of the work that we do is basically pushing things around and making sure all the details are taken care of. And so that frees up your time to deliver more service, to schedule more sales calls, to get on more clients, to do roadmap meetings with clients, and so forth. So the thing is, fundamentally, when you look at our industry, 10 years ago, you could not have had a job requirement that an office manager or a salesperson or a service manager or a technician had 10 years experience in managed services, because nobody had 10 years experience in managed services back then. So today you can say, I want an office manager who's got 10 years of experience in managed services. I want a salesperson who has sold managed services. And you might also say, well, on the other hand, what I require is 10 years experience or 3 years experience and a certification. So I believe this program will be good for you as an owner who wants to make sure that you've got people who understand the business model. I'm a big believer in Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And the why includes everybody. The people, the administrative assistants need to know why a technician has to put all their time into the system, right? They don't have to necessarily do anything about it unless that's part of your process, but they need to understand what the other people do for a living, right? Everybody in the company needs to know what the other people do. And so one way to do that is to have a level set of these courses that introduce those pieces of the business model. So we have 2 different kinds of certifications. The first one is actually pretty easy. If you pass one of these exams, then you will be an IT Service Provider University certified professional. And so that's one exam plus the foundation course. And you get a nice little badge. You can put it on your business card, put it on your website, flaunt it in front of your competition. Make sure that your clients know that you take your profession seriously and that you are working to improve yourself in this industry. And this is a bit of an eye chart, but it's the only one you'll see on this slide deck. This is also included as a handout in the foundations class. But basically, we've got these classes, and if you take 5 exams within a pathway, and it has to meet a certain pattern, but if you take 5 exams in a pathway, then you will be a certified specialist in that pathway. And so the foundation courses across the top, that's required for everybody. The yellow X's represent core classes. So you need to take 2 core classes. So for example, for a technician, you might take core SOPs and managed services in a month. And then you need to take 3 additional classes. So a core class can only count towards one specialist certification. So if you wanted to also be a service manager specialist, you got to make sure that you don't use the same core classes for each. And then you can choose 3 others in that category. Now, a core class can also serve as an elective. So you might also take the service board and the customer service classes as electives. But basically, once you get a total of 5 exams, and we will work with you. I have a team here, and we're happy to help you strategize what your pathway looks like. And I will say, one of the things that you're going to see is that in the foundations class, there's a handout that says, first of all, let's take stock of which courses you've taken. And if you haven't taken any, which courses do you most want to take? Which certifications do you want to get? And it sort of walks you through step by step, planning out your own path to the certification that you want. Now, if you are an alum, if you have taken classes at greatlittleseminar.com, you have access to those classes forever. So you can go, if you took a class 5 years ago, you could go back and take that exam, take that class. So what that means is now that we've added quizzes, if you took a class 3 or 4 years ago, you could go back, take that class again, and you would see all the exam questions. You could take the quizzes and prep for an exam. And so that there's no charge for any of that. So the low fruit approach to getting certified is if you are an alum and you've taken classes before, retake the classes, take the quizzes, study that way, and then the only thing you have to pay for is the actual certification exam, which will be available on the site very shortly. If you're a new student, obviously you can't retake a class, but you can review the courses that are available. We have now got the entire schedule for the year, and so we will actually, I'll probably put out a blog post on that just so everybody knows what's going, but we've set the class dates for the year, and you can just figure out which ones you want to take. You'll notice that the customer service course applies and can be used as core or elective for any of the certs. So if you want to be a specialist in anything, that's a useful class. But basically, plan out what you want to do. Again, that handout in the foundations class will help you a lot. And then basically figure out what you want to do first. So for many people, they really like the live interaction. And so you can take Lori's class that is going on right now, take my customer service class that starts next month. Or other people will want to do on-demand classes. So if you say, well, I'll take the project management and I'll take the managed services in a month and I'll take the core SOPs, you can knock out those in short order because you don't really have to wait a week between units. You can knock them out in short order. And by the way, I'm not going to go into it here, but the foundations class has a whole section on the value of certification. I believe certifications are extremely valuable. And so obviously, if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be here. So we also have a partnership with the Small Biz Thoughts technology community. So that's a different operation that I run. It's a different organization, different website. But if you are a member of the Small Biz Thoughts technology community, you can take all of the classes at no additional charge. So they are included in your membership. And I think $299 is a great price for 5 hours of amazing education and action-focused homework that will help you build your business. And many people have chosen, I think, probably half of the people in Lori's current class have paid full price and find value in that. So that's totally fine. You don't have to be a member of the community. So I think the $299 is still a great deal. But if you want to get the classes at no additional charge, you can join the community. Now, here's just an example of what that looks like. If you're a non-member, and you want to get one certification, you want to take one class and one exam, it's $299 for the class and $199 for the exam. If you want to take 5, then it's a total of just under $2,500. Again, if this is an investment in your career, it's totally worthwhile. And you all know that the people who advertise to you in this community frequently charge that much for one day's worth of almost anything. So I am pricing this to be what I think is very reasonable and intended for everybody, not intended for the people who, just want to be amongst the elite. Now, if you're a member of the Small Biz Thoughts technology community, the classes are included, and so you only pay for the exams at $99 each. So it's a savings of a couple $1,000s, which since it only costs you $11.99 for the year, it is absolutely and clearly worthwhile to do that. So one note, Alex wrote to me and said that, he's in the UK and he wants to know if this is relevant if you're not a US based managed service provider. And, my response to him was, obviously, I'm going to tell you it's totally relevant. But the reality is, I think managed services is a great business model, no matter where you are. And where it makes a big difference is usually in finances. So in my class on service agreements, I have entire sections where I have links to the relevant taxing agencies and regulation agencies in the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, English speaking places. And to be honest, that's where our core audience is from. And then, so we're sensitive to that, but the argument is still clear. You need a service agreement. You need to go take it to an attorney and have it reviewed, so forth and so on. A lot of it is about the strategy and the philosophy of how you deliver services. And the other courses that matter are obviously Rayanne's. So QuickBooks is not the product of choice in some countries. And obviously anything related to US tax law is US focused. So some of her courses are very US centric just by the nature of the course. There's still a lot of great advice about business philosophy and how finances need to be taken care of. She partners with Chris Tim from the UK on her PSA podcast, and clearly she has worked with people from other countries as well. So, but even if you discount those, you still have about 17 classes that are not affected by being US centric. So that's my opinion. So I wanted to keep this as short as possible, but I'm going to answer every question you have. So with that, I will ask Kara if you have anything else to add before we get to the questions. In particular, if I made any mistakes or said silly things.
Well, you definitely said silly things, but you did not make any mistakes.
Thank you.
Sure. That sounds good. Yeah, everything that you said was correct. I don't know that we really missed anything except for just to say that the foundation class that you just recently finished is not quite available. It will be probably by the end of the week for sure. On the website, and the exams are not yet available either, but those are coming very, very soon. So if you do have questions or are eager to get started on that, you can always send us an email on that, but those will be available in time.
All right. Thank you. So question. So Lynette says, what if you wear many hats, and as many people do, and therefore we have all roles? Which paths should we take, or should we take all paths? Well, so I know for a fact, Lynette, because she's a super great participant in our community, that she has taken several classes. So I would start with the classes you've already taken, and then look and say, okay, so which path do I want to take? Again, I think that foundation class is extremely useful, so that you can go through the little paperwork and create a path for yourself. Some people want to say, well, I'll take the ones I'm weakest in and make sure that I'm up to spec on that. And others say, I want to take the ones that I can most easily pass because, some people have taken a class more than once. We actually have several people that go back and take classes like every time they're offered. So you just have to kind of work it out. I would be happy to meet with anybody here on a Zoom call. We can do a 20-minute call and just sort of look at the options and say, let's strategize how we can help you get certified. So I hope that helps. Dennis, do you plan to put the ITSPU badge inside the LinkedIn certification window? So that is something we're working on. And the answer is yes. The goal will be that we'll be able to have that badge on LinkedIn. We are not currently paying for a badge service that, does all of that stuff automatically, only because it is the cost goes up per person who's actually badged, and it becomes very expensive when you have thousands of people certified. And so because we have a very reasonable priced certification program, we're going to figure out how to do it without paying one of those services. But anyway, so the answer is yes. Cool. Let's see. Kent, do my employees count as a community member when I'm a community member? Well, kind of. Here's the deal. If you want two people to take classes at the same time, I believe it's $99 to have one of your employees take a class. So now there's also, I just had a couple of people join at the enterprise level. So for $32.99, you get 10 logons that you can coordinate. So you could have up to 10 of your employees be full members of the community and have 10 people take classes at the same time for no additional charge. Ken asks, will there be a connection between ITSPU and National Society for IT Service Providers? Not formally. The National Society someday, it's my dream that someday they will encourage people to have continuing education credits, and that they will say, there's some process that you can go to and become someone whose continuing education credits are endorsed or, whatever, fall within the guidelines of the NSITSP. I would expect that to be things by Amy Babinchak, Eric Simpson, CompTIA, Bigger Brains. There's so many people who do education. And so obviously we would be part of that when the day comes. I don't know when that day will come. Hope that answers the question. The other thing I would point out is lots and lots and lots of people do one class, or they do two classes. And we really feel like what we have done here is to provide more than 20 awesome classes by a great group of people, and to really represent the core of what modern IT consulting, modern managed services is all about. So that's why we believe that it's an appropriate time for us to go ahead and offer those certifications. Can I please put the pricing slide up again? Sure. Hope that helps. Do you have a question, Brad, on the pricing per se, or does anybody else?
In the meantime, Carl, there's a question if the slides are going to be posted or sent out somewhere along with a recording.
Yeah, I will send out the slides to anybody who was registered. So we had, 80 some people registered, so we'll all get the slides. And a recording. That's always the question. That's the first question on any webinar. Is this being recorded? It's required by law, I think. Any other questions? I expected there to be more. Is this clear? Does this have value to people? I would love to have your feedback.
And says working on a question now. That's sometimes the thing with a webinar, you have that dead sort of silence that you're just waiting for someone to type a question and they're fiercely going for it.
Yes. Well, I've many times said, okay, no questions, no questions, no questions. And then that's followed by half an hour of questions. So
yep.
I'm totally fine with that. You know, we just finished a big push in the community, and I have to say, it's very active. So for those of you who are not members of the community, we get, I don't know, we've been getting 15, 20 people on a weekly Zoom call. And a lot of newbies have been showing up. So it's a great resource, and there's massive amounts of education in there that's other than the 5 weeks. The KPI course, which is 3 units, 3 hours, is particularly useful. And that's now a members only benefit. You can't actually get it anywhere else. All right. So Dennis, good stuff. It's nice to have dates and processes published. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Sergey, frankly, customers probably don't care about these and other certifications. Are these geared towards people who want to work for MSPs? Well, I mean, the management track is for people who own MSPs or want to become an owner someday. Pretty much the rest of them are geared towards your employees. So one of the things that happens from time to time is that people will say, I can't get my technicians to enter their time. I can't get my technicians to do this or to do that or follow checklists. And I think part of that is that the technicians haven't accepted the fact that this is how they keep their job. It's just that, the company has to be successful and has to be profitable in order for you to continue to do what you do. A lot of people get into this business because they want to fix stuff and they want to help people, which is cool. That's very noble. That's how I got into it. It's probably how almost everybody on the call got into it. But at some point, if the organization is going to move forward, you have to communicate effectively, and you have to be able to look at the customer side of things. And so you also have to make sure that the time card is in on time so you can get paid so the company can stay in business. So, So it is for both management and for employees. And if there's a follow-up to that, let me know.
Can I jump in there, Carl?
Yeah.
So on that question, again, this is also an opportunity for you if you do decide to earn a certification, that it is a marketing opportunity, and we're constantly trying to figure out what is our unique selling point, right? What's our USP in terms of marketing and setting yourself aside from your competition when on paper, things might look relatively the same. And this is an opportunity for you to do that. It's okay that your clients wouldn't know what exactly the certification means, but just simply sharing with them that you do have a certification, and then maybe providing a little bit of information around how it could benefit them as a client of yours is an opportunity for you to use this, in terms of client acquisition.
That's a good point. And, in the foundations class, I touch on the 9 pillars of transforming an industry into a profession. And one of those pillars is certification and, education. One of the things that's changed in our industry in the last 20 years is it used to be everybody got a Microsoft certification. Lots of people got Cisco certifications. People got, certifications from Sonic Wall and even HP, all kinds of certifications. And we've sort of moved away from that. And part of it is, one could also argue Microsoft moved away from us, right? But I remember thinking, that there was a time where my clients don't know the difference between an MSP or a MCP, Microsoft Certified Professional, and an MCSE. And so even though I had, I was an MCP, and then I had an MCSP, and then I had a certified professional organization, and we moved up from silver, right? I don't think my clients ever knew the difference between any of those. But what they did know is we were certified. We took our industry seriously, and we trained our people, and we bragged about the fact that we only hired certified professionals. And it's also been the case that a lot of new technicians have gotten in when certifications had sort of faded away. And so they just go to Google. And it's almost like, a bad meme that our industry is defined by people who think that you can just Google something and you're as good as somebody who's got formal education in the business model that makes all of this work. So I think your clients may not care or know the difference between the certs, but I think the fact that they are there can make a difference. So Ken says, are you planning or hoping to build the recognition or credibility of the certifications? Well, yes. I mean, part of it is, so we have thousands of people who've taken our classes. And if we can get every one of them to go take one exam, and we then have thousands of people who can put this badge on their website and their business cards and their stationery, I think that's the first big step in building that recognition and credibility. But then we are also going to have ads that go on the social media and on Google that promote this. And so we're going to point the ads, because we can do very targeted marketing. We will point the ads to small business owners, and we will ask, is your IT service provider certified? If not, point them to us and we will help them out. So we are going to have a campaign. Again, all of that takes time. You gotta work the work. So as of today, there are 0 people who have got a badge. But by the end of the year, we hope that we will have reached at least 1,000 people who are certified. And again, the people who've already taken classes, who can study those quizzes, should be able to get there fairly quickly. Brad says, just trying to understand the tie into the community. The basic tie into the community is I own both of these, and my personal and professional goal is literally for my life is to help you be as successful as possible. That's what I do. That's what I put in my book called Relax, Focus, Succeed that I published in 2005. My goal is to make you as successful as possible. And I know I could be charging $15,000, $20,000 for this because other people do, and they give you a lot less. But that's not my goal. My goal is to, make sure that I have enough money to find myself on a beach drinking a beer, and for you to be as successful as possible while I do that. So I am 100% committed to this. In fact, within Small Business Thoughts technology community, one of the things you'll see in that community over and over again is we are 100% committed to your success. That's why we do what we do. And I know some people will think that's bullshit. I don't care. You can look at my activities for the last 15, 20 years and compare them to the words that I speak. And I think that you'll see that that's exactly what I do. So the only real tie-in is I happen to own both of them. And so I have the ability to give something away from ITSPU that is available to members of the community. Let's see, Thomas, sometimes we hear about a way to do things in your courses, but maybe we don't have the matching products or services. Do you think we should go about that in regards to having our employees taking your courses? Well, here's the thing. And again, this is sort of sometimes glossed over in the classes and the books and so forth. But here's what you do to be successful. You take the advice given by Manny or me or Rayanne in one of these classes, and you mix it with your knowledge and experience. And you always have to say, okay, let me just flavor this a little bit because Carl doesn't live in my city, have my employees, have my offering, and have my clients. So you take the knowledge that you're given and you adapt it a little bit to make it fit your business model, your employees, your offering. Or sometimes you might say, well, I might have to change my employees or change my offering. You know, one of the things that my brother is very clear about, like this is rock solid, advice. If you go from break fix to managed services and you do it in a fairly short amount of time, as we did, we did all of it in 30 days. We took our smallest 15 clients and moved them to managed services at once. And the cold hard fact is you may lose some clients and you may lose some employees. But it takes effort to move your business in the right direction. Totally separate from this, as I say in my blog and newsletters and other places, I think most people who call themselves managed service providers don't provide managed services. They create flat fee services and they provide break fix service, and they're really not using the business model right. So sometimes there is pain in changing your business, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing to do. But so part of it is take the advice you get, mix it with a little reality that as you know it in your own business and in your own city. And part of it is, that it is intended for you to change some things or maybe discover some things that hadn't been working and you want to make sure that they work from now on. I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Sorry, how much preparation is needed roughly for each exam and how many questions are asked? So there was a slide on the quizzes, but each quiz is sort of tops out around 15 questions. So there might be 8, there might be 10, there might be 15. So each unit, each week, there is a quiz. And then when you look at all the quizzes for a particular class, a course, we're going to take 50 of those questions to create the exam. So there will be no tricks. You will have seen all of the questions before on the quizzes, and you need 80% to pass. So basically, you got to get 40 out of the 50 to pass. And again, you can retake the class if you need to. Once you're registered for the class, you can go back and take it again and again and again. So, and just a bit of a side note. So if you're a member of the community, I actually, if I'm not the one teaching the class, I end up paying the instructor for that class, whether I get any revenue from it or not, just because big picture, I need the instructors to, be paid appropriately, and I need the people in the community to get their value. So I don't divide between classes I teach and classes other people teach. But the exams are something that you should be able to take that class as many times as you need to until you understand every question and can get all the quizzes right. And then once you take the exam, you should be able to pass simply because you've seen those questions as many times as you need to. Brad says, no one should doubt my commitment to the industry. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Any other questions? That's my excuse for taking a sip of coffee. All righty. Well, if there are no additional questions, thank you all for being here. Please check out ITSPU.com. And let me see if I can quickly go all the way back to slide number 2. Get in touch with us, and Kara and I and our entire team will be very happy to help you, whether it is the mechanics of getting registered or helping you fill out your plan for the future. The foundations course will be up shortly, and it will be your guide to creating a path for yourself. And then also I'm going to send out these slides to anybody who was registered. So very cool. if there are no more questions, then I'll go ahead and put this to sleep, and you'll get a 10-minute break before your next Zoom call. So thank you all for being here, and thank you as always for your support. I love this community, and it has been spectacular for us. So I hope that you can find great success by becoming a certified professional from ITSPU. Thanks all.
So take care.
Oh, why is the cat not named in the host page? Ooh.
That's a good point. Brody actually probably precedes at least me.
All righty. Thank you all.